All right. Theoretically, I should check the stream in a second. But first, the subject is paying for the kids of millionaires to go to free college. But first, the subject is... Oh, sounds like it's coming through. I've adjusted the audio, so hopefully it won't be too loud. That it cuts off like there probably did. Excuse me. Oh, this reminds me. Somebody said, prepare and edit more. Right? Like I could edit out that cough. No, I can't. I'm streaming straight to the internet. That's a style I prefer to watch because I'd rather see people stumble over their words and try to rephrase things. To me, that's more honest, more conversational. Related to another subject I was thinking about doing, but I'll do later, about monetization, free speech versus monetized speech. I believe that's a dichotomy. Anyway, this is paying for millionaires' kids. Now, look, the title up there says Free State University for Millionaires, but the kids aren't millionaires. It's like the old Bill Cosby joke from before we knew about Bill Cosby, where he said to his kids, like, I deserve this and that. Why? We're rich. And Bill Cosby was like, you're not rich, kid. I'm rich. So, and I knew a guy who might have been about a millionaire, maybe less. But I remember he seemed pretty rich. They had a racquetball court in their house and things like this. And his dad, a friend of mine, and his dad wouldn't pay for him to go to college. He was like, I had to pay my own way. So there's that. But separate from that, let's just say that those kids are millionaires and that their parents are going to help them and pay for them to go to Yale and whatnot if there's no free college. Now, why is this an issue? A lot of people have said this, but Buttigieg is saying, I don't want to, about the free college thing. Obviously, this is about Bernie Sanders and other people's idea to have free college education for state. We wouldn't make Yale free. It's a private institution. They can charge whatever they can, whatever the market will bear. But making state colleges free, which they have been in the past, state universities and stuff have been free and nominal costs. And Buttigieg is like, I don't want to pay for millionaires' kids. And that really bothers me about Buttigieg, that he would take that approach. Because I don't think that he's, as we'll get into, I don't think, it shows a kind of dishonesty. He's not against, there's perfectly fair and honest reasons that you could have and you could be honest about for opposing, free college. College is useless. Whatever your reason would be. But the idea that Buttigieg doesn't want to do it because, I don't want to, why should the millionaires get a free ride? Well, the millionaires are the ones that are going to be paying for this system, and I think that's why he's against it. It's not because the millionaires will be getting something for free. It's just disingenuous, And there's reason to say, why should all the millionaires pay for everybody to get educated? Fine, have that argument. It's just like I'm against torture. Well, I'm for torture. Here's a good reason for it. But, it's like if you have to make a reason like what it's really... Anyway. So here's the reasons you should go ahead and have free state colleges and universities. And there can be exceptions for whatever program or anything. And obviously this should include trade schools, vocational, actual practical skills kind of education. Okay, now first of all, I want to get one thing right out of the way that people never think about when you means test, right? You know what means testing is? Means testing is to check if somebody is poor enough to get your product for free that you're going to offer as a state. And it's the cost of means testing. When you means test something, you have to have a whole department of government to check their financial, to do accounting on individuals. For example, let's say you were going to give away, you have a town, people aren't hydrated enough. You're rich. You're going to give away a, I don't know, 10,000 bottles of water. And or water bottles, let's say, so that, because I think people aren't hydrated because they can't afford a water bottle and they want to pay for plastic bottles and the environment. Whatever the reason is, somebody just wants to do this thing, but they don't want to give it away. They don't want to give water bottles away to people that can afford them. So they have to means test. Okay, well, you got 10,000 water bottles, and now every time somebody comes and says, I'll take one of those water bottles, you got to means test them. That's going to cost you a few dollars to check, because it's going to be some amount of time of a person. If you check really thoroughly, then somebody's going to spend all day, 8 hours. An accountant type person or a clerk type person will have to spend 8 hours thoroughly vetting what their financial documents and information. And that costs more than the water bottle. It's cheaper just to give it away. Imagine if you had to, like, public roads and fire and police, let's say roads. Okay, we are going to means test people to see whether they can use the roads for free that the government makes. How many millions of dollars are you going to do checking all of the people? It doesn't make financial sense. And this is often the case with means testing, simple infrastructural things like going on a free public road, or college. It's an overhead that is a waste of money. You'd be better off spending it on the teachers and the publicly subsidized tuitions. As far as millionaires, let's face facts. They are paying. Of course they're paying. They will be paying the education tax. Many of them will still send their kids to Yale and Harvard and whatnot and be a legacy at a school with connections that pay back. Right? Hey, Donny Cats love me. I didn't see your comment, but I see you're in there. I'll say hi in a second. These people can go to private schools still. And they have a lot of reason to still want to do that. And if they're the kind of rich person that wants to go to Berkeley or Davis or some, University of Maine, Orono, good for them. If it's because they're a cheapskate, doesn't matter. They're going to have good socialization. These rich kids are going to go and make contacts with working class kids, other rich kids as rich as themselves, all the way through to just working class kids that were smart, who were the first person in their family to go to school or whatever kind of cliche you can imagine happening when you have free college universities again. And that socialization is good. I want the super rich kids to go to school with the regular kids. That's only a good thing, and that they would make those kind of contacts and not just skull and bones at Yale kind of contacts. That's in my best interest. So, yes, I want to pay for the millionaires' kids, and the only way I can be saying that I would be paying for millionaires' kids is, I'll be paying a tax. I probably wouldn't necessarily be that much subsidized. Maybe a little, actually, but, the idea that Buttigieg, to pick on him a little bit since he's been saying this, that he doesn't want to give a freebie to millionaires is just silly. He knows the millionaires will be paying to subsidize the poor people, right? And that's what he objects to. And I just wish he would be honest about that if he was going to say it at all. He could be honest about his real opposition to it. It can't be. And also, so I heard, I didn't double check this, but various sources have said that he puts the cutoff at $100,000 a year income. That's not enough to pay these exorbitant. That's a price range where those kids are getting the big debt. That's just two people. That's two parents making $50,000 a year trying to save for a retirement so that they, from 75 to 100, they're going to be able to survive. So anyway. But anyway, it's a good thing to pay. You don't want a means test. You want those those are the best billionaires and millionaires out there that are going to send their kids to the public institution. And then maybe those rich people will help the endowments of a public institution and make all the public institutions like Berkeley and whatnot that have some prestige as public institutions where anybody that wants a world-class education could go. And people could still go, to Harvard to have their connections with, 80% other rich people, fine. But, those colleges are going tuition free because they're just going to live off their endowments because they want good students so bad. They're like, we want our pick of good students. Of course, legacies still go, and so it's like, well, we're going to make sure there's a bunch of geniuses here so all the idiot rich kids can also be among geniuses, and that'll justify them getting jobs at Burisma and whatnot. Okay, let's see real quick here. Hi, Dynacat. Loves me. Good old Dynacat. Before we go for free universal college, we need to figure out how to provide basic free education. College is already dumbed down so much as to be almost meaningless. I don't know what you mean by basic, but I believe that like a vocational approach should be used in education more, and also just practical things. Sometimes they are academic things like teaching logic younger, something I've been saying we should have for years and years. And if that's what you mean by basic free education, there should be a lot more of what we used to call home economic kind of stuff, how to do a checkbook, how to cook for yourself, how to just home repair kind of stuff. But that's a separate problem. The point is, even if we cleaned up our education to high school, we can make a lot more productive people, but you're still going to have a specialization phase in this modern specialized economy, especially with the technical economy, but even just any modern approach to all the specializations that we have, you're going to have a secondary education, and it's important. So Dynacat Loves Me says, most college grads today would fail a basic high school final exam from 100 years ago. I don't think that's actually true. I think you're exaggerating. And although some educational, standards seem to be falling, overall there's still this upward trend, and you can't just go by the United States and what we've done to education funding in our states with, like in California with Prop 13 and stuff. These are important near-term trends from our near-term decisions, but overall education is improving. Literacy hasn't taken I want to say a dive, but it's one of those weird things where literacy, it hasn't fallen like there's a catastrophe in the concept of education itself. And so I just see that as a separate issue, sort of the quality of education. I see it as a major issue that we should include, and expand on vocational schools. And for example, where I am, it's like, I think it'd be a great job if I was 20, to go ahead and become an electrician or a plumber. It's hard to hire them. They're in incredible demand. You try to hire one, and it's hard enough to even get one that will come, and then they can't come for 2 weeks. And we're talking like plumber. Plumber's a thing that someone, some of those plumbing problems, it's like dentistry. You need somebody in the next 24 hours or even right now. So we need to, that's of immediate import. But in terms of cleaning up the quality of education or dealing with grade inflation, those are educational problems we can deal with. It's totally separate from whether you should have free education. You should have free education all the way through college level, in my opinion. Mickey Farley says, over half of college students these days are taking classes to learn how to add fractions, for fuck's sake. Countries that do provide free education also don't let just anyone go. Well, right. You can still have, obviously getting into a public university like Berkeley is still going to be, they get to be selective. But It's like having junior varsity sports. You open up another school so that there's enough schools for everybody to go for free, and the remedial schools for the the ones that are more basic or slower paced or whatever. It's based on what the students, the people of that era, need, whatever and if they're media damaged because of 15-second commercials on the internet, no attention span, fine. Then you create a curriculum for that. That's the people who need education, okay? So I think it's fine to say that not just anybody can go to every university, but there should be higher education for everybody. And frankly, people should be trained into things that are useful and productive and stimulating, and that can happen. I've been a lead programmer and led teams of people, on the size of, 5 to 10 since I was in my 20s. And I personally went from a philosophy that everybody can be productive if they want to be. I can't guarantee that you're worth the salary that you were hired at and doing the job we anticipated. But if you want to contribute to this team, we will find a way, and it's always worked out. I mean, there's like a couple exceptions. One exception, a guy had to be fired. Well, yeah, he just searched porn all day. He didn't want to help out. But other people struggled with math or struggled with this. And there's things that people can do, and jobs that they can take that it's like, he can't do this, so he has to do this other thing, but he's happy to do that because at least he knows how to do it. And all these other guys that are geniuses at this, they don't want to do that, and it works out. So, Dynacat says, well, if things work that way, they ought to. Only 1 in 5 would be able to graduate college. That should be the expectation. I'm not sure what you mean about that. I mean, graduating, proving that you got educated. Everybody is educable in something, that's I believe. Not everybody wants to be educable in something, and I think there's even ways to make a productive work for them as well, people that are like that. Dynacat, you're always surprising me. Over all these years I've known you. And also, I feel like I have to say Dynacat loves me because of the whole thing of I always thought of you as Dynacat, and then you're like, no, Dynacat is the cat, and the cat that loves me, but I just want to call you Dynacat, okay, in the memory of Dynacat. But you always surprise me. I don't really know where you're coming from. If I had to guess, I would thought, you'd be all for free education. But wait, your pushback or whatever on the free education, to me, I'm just interpreting like, okay, well, let's, whatever. The point is free, good education. If we have to play around with what's good, appropriate education for various people, fine. But nobody gets left behind. And right now we're dealing with, without free education, we're talking about kids in bad situations and parents and bad luck and other priorities where they can't go to school, and they would be the next great scientists and novelists for that matter. Dynacat loves me says, instead we have a system that calls any kid that can't get into college a failure. Well, I agree that that's stupid. And in my opinion, from the working class people are generally interested in a lot of practical things. How to fix their car, how to make this, how to make that, making stuff for their loved ones and their girlfriends and their kids, and making a swing and having a cool, tree house, and having a cool tree house or a trampolines and whatever. Jesus fucking Christ, this is all messed up. Practical knowledge of how to do things without killing themselves doing it. Mostly, not always. And so I think there's room for education that it's also not even just schools, but I think that we should have like public facilities like auto shops where you can go down and check out, like at the library, and go down and there's tools and there's a car lift, and if you want to become an expert at fixing cars, you can do that through kind of an apprenticeship of going down to the shop, and the shop manager makes sure that you're safety, and you have to do a safety check, and however you want to learn things. And I think that will come if we have free education, and people will go to college and go, I got that for free, and it just wasn't, it didn't do anything for me. If you pay $50,000 and it didn't do anything for you, it's like, I'm a failure. I paid all that money, it didn't do it. No. We would find out the right kinds of education that different people want and what their interests were for both their personal edification to expand their knowledge and to get exposed to literature or philosophy or whatever, as well as people learning skills like plumbing and stuff. And you'd find people learning plumbing to become a professional plumber and other people learning so that they don't have to hire a professional plumber. Anyway, nice. Thanks for the feedback. I think I've shared my message. All right, I think next time I might talk about monetized versus free speech.